Good morning, everyone. My name is Taryn and you are watching my channel, Nicole Flower House. On here, I share with you everything about my cut flower garden located in Zone 7B. It's now early April and the tulips are in full bloom. I can't get enough of them. They're so beautiful and the colors are so cheerful. This year I have a lot of mixes that are blooming at different times. I have some parrot tulips that you can see here. I wasn't sure if I was going to like parrot tulips. This is the first year I chose those, but I really like them, so I think I'll do more next year. I also have some pink mixes, some white, and then just mixed colors. Towards the end of this video, I'm going to be harvesting a lot of these gorgeous tulips and making bouquets, so stay tuned for that. Now, I don't have anything else in full bloom quite like the tulips, but spring is definitely on the way and things are starting to green up and show signs of flowering. One interesting thing this year is that my tulips bloomed before my daffodils. Usually my daffodils are much earlier than the tulips, but this year was different. I'm not sure why or if that'll happen again. I'll keep an eye out for it. The cilantro I just pulled out of the way from this new David Austin rose. I'll have to keep an eye on it, but I'm hoping that it'll bolt and go to flower just like these brassicas, because cilantro doesn't really like warm weather, so it should flower, and I'm excited for that because they're really pretty in arrangements and add a lot of texture and interest. The calendula that I planted last fall and overwintered is starting to put on blooms. They don't look great, they're very short, but I found that most of my flowers put on short blooms when they first start, and they improve in stem length over the course of the season as the plant matures. So hopefully these will get some taller stems as we go along. The Dara is looking really good. I don't see signs of flowers yet, but hopefully soon. My anemones are also popping through. Last year that happened way earlier than tulips again, so I'm not sure what's affecting all the timing, whether it was how cool of a winter we had or the fact that we had a ton of rain and not a lot of sun, but things are a little funky this year, but I'm still excited to see the blooms coming on. I have a few stalks starting to set flowers. I'm not sure if I'll do this again next year. I also have new seedlings that I planted in the spring. I just thought stalk was a lot taller. These look kind of short and wimpy, so maybe I'm doing something wrong or I'm not being patient enough. We'll see, but this might be something I'll skip in future years. This purple tulip is one that I missed when digging up bulbs last year. It's pretty, but not good enough for an arrangement. The mums I had planted in here last year are coming back very strong and putting on a lot of new green growth. What does not look good is this eucalyptus. I think I'm going to take all of it out and start over with my fresh seedlings. I want to plant my new seedlings somewhere where they will get better circulation in the winter time. I got a really good harvest off of this, so it didn't go to waste. I think I will continue to overwinter eucalyptus as well as plant fresh in the spring. These sweet peas are the ones I planted in the fall, and they are leaps and bounds ahead of the seedlings that I planted in the spring. I should be getting a nice succession of those, some early blooms and some later ones. I have the oregano and thyme. I cut this back pretty hard on the last video for my flower crowns, so it's really responding well to that trim. Here is an update on the bed of tulips that I buried super deep last year at the end of tulip season. I didn't think they were going to come back, so I never pulled them out, and they did come back. Now this frilly tulip right here with the fringed edges, really pretty, and there's other ones in here that are nice and I can use. They have really thin stems compared to my other tulips, but I like that because I can use them on the edges of arrangements to give a lot of movement because they droop a little bit, which I like. There's other stems in here that are not usable. Petals are not in great shape and not formed correctly. Sometimes I will use those ones as filler to give support and structure in the bottom of arrangements if they're going to get covered up by other flowers. This is a helpful tip if you don't like using things like floral foam to do arrangements, which I do not use floral foam. So you can use flowers to give other flowers a place to nestle in and give them the support they need to stand up straighter. I only do this if they're going to be covered up by other flowers, and they absolutely do not get counted in the stem count when I'm arranging for customers. The anemones you see coming up in here, I did not plant. They were left over from last year. I'm trying to figure out if I should move these things around and group them together, or if I should just continue to let things pop up wherever they want to pop up. The spring planted bachelor's button seedlings are coming along. These are carnations. I'm really excited to see what kind of blooms I get this year. I hardly got any last year because by the time they took off, it was too hot for them. This right here is a coral berry plant. It's a shrub, perennial shrub. I planted 6 of these in the fall last year, and they looked terrible over the winter, so I'm glad it's greened up and looking nice. Our zone might be a little hot for them, but I still want to see how they do. And as they get bigger, I'll just have to plant carnations and annuals in other areas. And it looks like I should get buds soon on these ones that I overwintered from last fall. The seedlings I planted in the spring were much further behind, but these are looking good. My snapdragons over here are really close to flowering, I think. A lot of them have buds, and some of them are even starting to color up and look like flowers will be on the way really soon. You may may notice that these snapdragons are planted really close together and just kind of irregularly. I sowed these seeds in the fall and I just kind of sprinkled them around, and this is how they came up. So I just let them be. I also didn't pinch these. Pinching will give you a lot more blooms. So when I cut these first flowers, I'll be sure to cut really far into the plant near the base so I get some good branching and increase my blooms that I get. Here is another look at the last two coralberry Berry Proud shrubs. They produce a really pretty pink berry, so I'm so glad they're doing better. Over the winter, the leaves were all crinkly and brown. There's always opportunities to pull a few weeds here and there when I see them. I just can't help myself sometimes. Didn't want to leave these ones behind. This is another berry producing shrub. I don't remember exactly what this one is. I think I have it written down somewhere, and if I can find it, I will let you guys know. But I don't know if you've noticed a theme, but I like planting things that produce berries. I really haven't been able to harvest any berries yet, but maybe this year will be the year. In previous videos, I've shared about my winterberry plants, so now we also have a few others to add to the mix, and I'll see what I can get. These are the sweet pea seedlings that I had started from seed in February. I think last year when I planted out spring planted seedlings, I got blooms somewhere in May, maybe mid to late May. I'll have to go back and look. We'll see what happens this time around. These daffodils I really like. They have 3 florets per stem, and that's really nice. These are also some nice doubles. However, when I ordered these, they were labeled as something called rosy clouds, and they were supposed to be pink. These are obviously not pink, but still beautiful, so I don't know if I'll order from that company again. It was just kind of something I bought on a whim, and I thought, ooh, pink daffodils, that would be really awesome. These are still pretty, but they are not pink. My poppy bed is looking really good. I have a bud right here. I hope I get a flower soon. Maybe you guys can help me out in the comments. I've never grown poppies, and I have 2 very different things here. I believe they're both poppies, and I know there's different types. I should probably look into that and do some research, but if you could help me out, I would love it. I love reading your comments, but I think maybe they're just different varieties. I'm not sure. These are magnolia tendril peas. They're usually grown in gardens for eating, but I like to grow them because they have very intricate tendrils, and once they get taller and have more branching to them, they're really cool in arrangements. They curl around, and they're just a lot more extravagant than a regular garden pea would have, or even sweet peas. The bachelor's buttons are looking so good. They have tons of buds on them. There's early blooms down in the plants, but I can't wait until the rest of the buds start opening up and I can start using those in arrangements. This garden box right here has a mixture of anemones and ranunculus in it. This garden box is not going to last much longer. I don't even know if it'll last this entire garden season, so I'll need to redo the box. I will probably relocate these when I redo this. These Dahlia seedlings were just planted out about a month ago. You can tell how much smaller they are than the Dahlia that overwintered. So I'm glad I will have a nice succession of these as well. These stock seedlings are just kind of hanging out. They're not really looking bad, but they're not quite taking off yet, so we'll see how these progress along. This is the bed where I have ranunculus planted on top of my dahlias. I'm really hoping the ranunculus bloom right around Mother's Day in May. That's about a month away. I think it could happen. I also have 3 more beds of ranunculus here in the raised garden boxes. I'm really thinking this year that I am not going to take these ranunculus out at the end of this season. I've had a few pop up here and there that I missed last year, and I want to see how many of them will come back. Real quick right here, I do have some sunflowers popping up. I took a risk, planted some seeds just to see what would happen, trying to intermix them throughout these ranunculus. Anytime I have an opportunity to try to see if I can get 2 uses out of one space based on spring blooming flowers versus summer blooming flowers, I'm going to try it. So coming back to the idea of saving my ranunculus from year to year, I know most growers grow ranunculus as annuals, but this year I'm kind of thinking I want to just experiment and see how much I can get away with. Anything that I can perennialize instead of planting out as annuals, I'm up for because it saves time, effort, and expense. Here's another thing I tried. I put some sunflower seedlings in the ground right at the edge of this box. I thought the box might provide some extra warmth and protection for them. This is the only spot I have that didn't get eaten by probably slugs. I did this on 2 other spots and all those seedlings are gone. We do have a freeze tonight, 28 degrees, so I'll have to update you to let you know if those survived or not. This is an example of one of the ranunculus that I missed last year that popped back up. It has a tiny bud on it, extremely short stem. Don't know if it'll stretch longer or if the blooms that come after it will be better. I'll definitely be watching the quality on those. In this dahlia box, I have some spinach planted, just trying to, again, take advantage of the space. But next to it, you can see I have a dahlia sprouting up. This is one of the dahlias that I moved from the back garden into the garden box. I will have to check to see if those sprouts survived our freeze as well. This in-ground bed has more ranunculus. These ones I pre-sprouted in late January, maybe early February, so I'm wondering if they'll bloom at the same time or later than the other ones. They look pretty similar. This in-ground bed has gladiolus in it. I've never grown those. I'm really excited to try it. I'm going to succession plant them, meaning I'm going to plant a few rows of them every 2 weeks or so. My regular viewers of the channel might be wondering why I have new in-ground garden beds. I've stated many times last year that I felt like my garden was too big and that I was going to make it smaller and cut back. So I moved a bunch of dahlias from this area into the front garden. I just really didn't want to let those garden beds go, and I actually decided to add more. I'm going to be a little more strategic this time and only plant drought-tolerant things back there. I'm deciding now that I probably won't be watering this back garden area. It'll be a good test to see what can survive with very little maintenance, and if anything, I will just just let it go to pollinators and not worry about it too much and not fuss over it and stress over it. The dahlias I had in the back of the garden before required way too much maintenance to have them that far away from the house. After I cut back on the garden and made it smaller, my imagination just kind of went wild with all that free open space. So I intentionally tried to find a way to use that space that wasn't as labor intensive as taking care of dahlias. I know it's really easy to do, to overplan and overplant in the cool spring weather when you're not having to go out and harvest and maintain things in the heat of summer. But this year I'm hoping to have a different attitude about it. And if I can't get to that back area, I can't get to it, and it'll still be beautiful, something pretty to look at, and something to just really appreciate if it starts pumping out tons and tons of blooms that I didn't have to work very hard for. Another idea I have maybe in the future, it can be a pick your own area. If I have friends or guests over, that they could just go back there and cut flowers as they like. I have moved the majority of my daffodils for cutting up into this front garden bed. I did that because I wanted to fully let all the foliage die back after I'm done cutting on them, so they were taking up too much space in my cutting garden for me to quickly turn the space around so I could plant something else. This way, with it up front here, I can let the foliage stay green and die back for as long as it needs. And as promised, here is all the footage of me harvesting tulips. I love a good harvest video, so I hope you enjoy this one. And also at the end of the harvest, I'm going to be wrapping bouquets and getting them ready for my clients. Well, that is all for today's garden video and update. If you enjoyed it, give it a thumbs up. You can always follow me on Instagram if you want to see pictures of my flowers. I try to post daily. The best way you can support me and my channel is to subscribe and share it with your flower loving friends. I'll see you guys next week. Bye.